Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show. Every week, I am in awe of this blessing that is my life, to be able to show up here and bring you these incredible stories of people who have gone through incredible adversities, and they have risen above, and they live to tell the stories and bring hope to the rest of the world. Today, we're talking to another such incredible individual. Loss, grief, we all go through it. We all have our own way of dealing with it. We all have our own coping mechanisms. We all go through it in our own individual way. Some of us get stuck. Some of us live in that victimhood state for a very long time. And some of us come out stronger and more powerful. And it is my belief that all of us are capable of that. My guest today is Deborah Berry. Deborah is a visionary. She's the author of her book, The Key to Life Discovery Process. Deborah is a podcaster of her podcast, Deborah's Aria, The Tale of the Three Towers. And we're going to hear all about that later. Deborah has gone through quite a bit. Her journey is one of, you can call, extreme ups and downs. And Deborah has lived through a parent's worst nightmare, losing a child. And 11 years later, she had an accident on the exact date and time of her son's death. And this accident left Deborah with a brain injury, and it took her years to recover. Deborah has come out of this, and she is propagating the message that there is light at the end of loss, that we can all come out with more power and stronger. Deborah's message is very strong. So please share this with people who you think might benefit from this. And let's give her a big, warm Dela's Voice welcome and hear her story. I have a box of Kleenex because you know me. I hope you do too. Let's bring Deborah on. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Dela.
It's so nice to have you here, Deb.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. It really is.
May I just say that where you are sitting right now, your background is so warm and it's so cozy. I just love it.
Well, thank you. It's a little cottage that I'm staying in before I move into my new home in Aiken, South Carolina.
Congratulations on that. That is amazing. You just bought this house. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, Deb, thank you for being here. I'm just going to put up the banner of the show so that when people get on, they can see what we're talking about. And I want to take a moment and say hello to our viewers that are already with us. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving us your hour on a Sunday. And I hope you take from this show the message you are meant to take. And please do share this with others. Can we say hi to some people already? If you're watching this, drop us a line because otherwise we won't see you. So Sarah J's here. Deborah Sweezy is here, our beautiful friend. And she says, hello, beautiful friend. So excited to be here today. Dr. PPP, Pravin Patel, Dashing Diva Dela. Can you? Oh, thank you, Dr. PPP. Frida is here. Frida's my mom. Always watching. Thank you, Mom. And Deborah says, love you, Deborah. Deborah Sweezy is the reason why I met you. So I'm very grateful. And Robert Brooker is here and Cindy Wilson is here. Good day to all of you. Thank you so much. So Deb, I want to start where you want to start. Because your journey, like I had mentioned, has started with a lot of challenges. Even as a child, you went through a lot of challenges, and so where do you want to start? Maybe that's where we should start.
I was hoping you would take the lead. I never know where to start. But
so
yes,
I think to know where Deb comes from, I think that's where we'll start.
Where do I come from? I think I was born from another planet. That just came out.
See?
It just came out. I was born on another planet. I think what's beautiful about being on your show, Dela, is that everything that you represent is everything that has helped me to transcend trauma and loss, which is the light. I think the light trumps all words. And the reason why the light trumps all words is because the light is infinite and it's available to all of us to switch on. It is also the one experience that opens our hearts so we can love. And when we know and experience what it is to travel from the darkest dark to discover the brightest light, we find true freedom. And I mean that because I have experienced suffering, and each time I've experienced suffering in my life through each decade, I'm nearly 60, and over every 10 years I had a trauma. And each time I transformed through each one of those traumas, I eventually transcended through that trauma into what I call the superhuman connection of how I connected my mind with my soul.
So you talk about the light, and it's funny how I picked this title for this show. And I think I gathered that from everything that I read about you in your bio and what you represent. And that's what I feel like you represent, the light. And so if anyone's watching this show and is living in the darkest of dark, this is the show for you. So watch this, because at the end of this, you will find the light. And Deb says, everyone is capable of finding that light. Deb, how so?
I think what's very interesting is it's very simple. it's like anything in our lives. It's complex to move through the suffering, but the answers are simple. Unfortunately, many people don't apply what is very obvious and what's in front of them because they are caught up in old habits and conditioned by society and the struggle within society. And it's not something that we learn just in one technique. We acquire it through many, many techniques, and we evolve within it, and we advance ourselves through it. And it's beyond anything we know in our mind of what we think, or even what we think we know. It's about everything that we resonate with and we connect with on an energetic level.
Deb, you went through something horrific. I mean, a parent's worst nightmare is losing a child. Would you say that was your darkest moments?
If I was honest with you, I'd say no.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell us more.
I know. And that is not to say that it was not extremely painful, and it did not change my whole life. I was 23, and it changed every aspect of who I was, who I thought I was, and what I was about to enter into. The irony of, we hear people say, oh, it can't get any worse than this, but let me tell you it can, and it does. And I laugh because the ironies that we are shown. Now, the interesting thing about Lee, when Lee died, was I was blessed. I was blessed, and I was shown that he was called and that he would be what I call my guardian of the light. And he showed me a higher vision. And through that suffering, I came to understand the truth about life and the truth about loss and everything that I thought I knew at the ripe old age of 23.
You say he showed you how blessed you were. How so?
He drowned, but they brought him back to life. And while he was on life support, I did a lot of praying. And I remember looking out at the dark sky, and probably for the first time, I never really felt the spirit of God. Everything felt dead. And I sought after that and wanted to understand, but I knew he was going to die. And I remember my husband at the time saying to me, if you do not believe that he will live, he will not live. And I said, oh no, but God has already told me that he's going with him. And I had a series of events that happened in real life that were not coincidences. They were very specific. And the almighty spirit, whatever you want to call God, the universe, the all-knowing, the light of everything that we're born from, touched me with an information. And, you hear people say, oh, they heard something. But what was interesting was I remember sitting on the back balcony. I've told this story a few times, but I was sitting on the back balcony and I was praying, and Lee was on life support. And I said to my husband, I wanted some bacon and eggs for breakfast. And let me tell you, when your son's on life support, you don't want to eat anything. But for some reason, I had this incredible urge for breakfast. And I got up to go to the intensive care, this little tiny intensive care with little babies, and Lee, who was 2. And as I'm walking towards intensive care, a nun, because it was a hospital that had, it was a Catholic hospital, and it had chapels in it, and a nun walks out of the elevator, and she's carrying a tray. And she says to me, and she walks towards me to show me the tray, to hand it to me, and as I touch the tray, she says, this is against all policy. We don't share breakfast, but we thought maybe you and your husband would like breakfast. And let me tell you, it's exactly how I like breakfast.
Bacon and egg?
Bacon and eggs. It had toast with marmalade and a cup of tea. And as I grabbed the tray, I had shivers up my spine, and I went all like tingly, and God said, and Leah's coming with me. And then I knew. But the beauty of that was that I was shown an infinite understanding, and it opened up my heart. I was saved from real deep grief. And I didn't even, this is probably maybe another story, but I didn't realize until only several years ago my dog died what guilt was all about. I never experienced guilt. And I just had a constant communication from then on. I had it before, but never like after Lee had died.
I got chills. As you're going through this grieving process, what is your husband's take back then?
Do you know what? I can't even remember. The thing is, my family, they blame me for his death behind my back and to my face.
How so?
They blame me. I mean, my mother, she said to me, I'd have a grandchild if you killed my grandson. You know, I heard behind, ironically, there were stories that came back to me that you wouldn't expect would come back to you. We had a friend who, at the time, the family was in Central Australia near Winton, at the outback, and we had a cattle and we used to live on a cattle and sheep ranch, and the family and my husband's family lived out there. And anyway, we lived on the Gold Coast. It was sort of like a ranch out in Texas, and we were actually living like in California. And a neighbour a friend, son, who was a neighbour of my parents, got a job as what they call a jackaroo in, say, Texas, but in Central Australia. And he's sitting around a dinner table.
I have no idea what jackaroo is.
So a jackaroo is a station hand, and they ride horses and they help with cattle and sheep mustering and do farm, fix fences and, do farm work,
Gotcha. Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, so it's a jackaroo. And they call the females a jillaroo.
Cool.
And
thank you.
So anyway, they're sitting around the ranch table eating, and they're all talking about how their daughter-in-law had killed their grandchild. And he comes back and they realise they were talking about me. I mean, the odds of that were uncanny. I was shown the truth about what was going on. And
so were you blaming yourself?
No, not at all. No, it was an accident. No, I never blame myself. No.
So this is difficult as you're grieving, and your family is not, obviously, you don't get the proper support from your family. How do you keep yourself so strong?
It was the experiences I had, and the connection that I have, the spiritual connections that I've had since I was a little girl. And, when Lee was on life support, he was brain dead. And the day that we took him off the life support, we were in the chapel praying, and there was a big crucifix. I'm not Catholic, by the way, but, I was praying my head off.
Sure. Hang on to anything you can, right?
Whatever you can.
Yes.
I mean, because we took him off life support, and they said when we take the tube out, he'll either breathe on his own or his throat will close up and he will die. And so you pray, regardless that I was told Lee's coming with me by the Almighty. It was, I'm praying that there's a miracle. But instead, as I'm standing in front of this 40-foot crucifix, the whole room goes in this golden glow of light, like it's gold, and I'm buzzing, and I see myself come through the crucifix. And then Christ comes through it 3D and says, "You'll never walk alone."
Oh,
So I never walked alone.
the power of faith.
Yeah. I think what was interesting is, at the time, I didn't know how alone I was going to walk. I didn't know I was going to do it alone. And most everything that I've done, I've had people around at different times. I've had help, I have had support, but I haven't had any significant other that's really stood by me and helped me. I've had to do it myself, which is interesting, because even if you have family, even if you have a great deal of support, it is still only you that can do the work.
It's so true. It's so true that we're totally, yes, as much as you know that you're not walking alone, because you know that your higher power is with you, you do have to deal with a lot of the hard work by yourself. I know that we can all we've all experienced that. It's the tough stuff that you're alone in, I think.
Yeah, it's the toughest stuff. I think what's interesting is the work isn't actually hard. It's quite simple. I think what makes it difficult is that people are distracted about what they think is important and what matters.
So walk us through the work you did.
Well, I think the work that I did, it may be different to the work that I help people through, because not everybody has got and had my experiences. But a lot of the techniques that I use are the things we talk about all the time, but people are inclined to go, they don't really think there's great importance in them, and they don't give them any validity. They don't give them it enough time. They'll spend a third of their life in education to expect to learn what they need to learn, but they wouldn't even dream of giving the same amount of time and attention into connecting themselves with their own soul, with their own self, and knowing who they truly are. I mean, it's in knowing who you truly are that you connect with that light. So, hypnosis, meditation, physical aspects. So when we connect our mind with our soul, it's not something that you're thinking. Even though affirmations work are great, meditation is great, hypnosis is wonderful, EFT, working with the meridians. The body has a brain, a right and left side brain. It has a neurological, it has a nervous system, it has a physical skeletal, it has, meridian. And then we have, the mind and the heart connection and how we work through that. And these very simple techniques that we do, it's a little bit like a chef. Chef doesn't work with one ingredient. He works with many ingredients, many herbs and spices, and a very good chef will have it taste in such a way that you nearly can't even identify the ingredients, because it's immersed itself within the cooking of the dish or the recipe. And so when we allow ourselves to immerse into the magic of all these beautiful techniques that are readily available to us, then we become evolved like a great meal.
I love it. I've never heard it quite this way before. A professionally made meal. You can't tell where one flavor starts and where one ends. Just like all these different tools that we have, and you're right. They all merge together and they allow us to grow in. And if you ask me today, what came first? I couldn't tell you, because I too have gone through a lot of transformation. Okay, Deb, 11 years later, something else happens.
Yeah, the car accident.
Yes.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about that experience. And I think what I want to get to is why. And you say there are no coincidences. So why then? What were you supposed to learn, and what did you learn? So, and what happened first? What happened first, please?
You know, I didn't have the kind of car accident where the car was all mangled up. I was a passenger, and we got hit from the side, and I was looking at the complete opposite direction, and I turned my head 180 degrees, and I had a 4-way whiplash. So every lobe in my brain was impacted, including the spine, the stem. And so everything that I was doing at the time I was a personal manager and publicist for a headline entertainer, and my life just came to a sudden halt. And I did not realise it was the anniversary of my son's death. And actually, it was the anniversary of not his death, it was the anniversary of his first death, and then he was brought back to life the day of the drowning, which was the 28th of February. What one thing that was very evident to me at the time was, you know, I was very analytical. Not that I wasn't spiritual, sensitive, or compassionate and creative, because I've always been a bit of a balance of both. But when I think about that particular time, the greatest impact that I had was I lost my memory. I had a lot of other things going on, neurological problems and horrendous pain. But the memory, so everything I thought I knew and discovered and learned about, everything I'd learned and the insights that I learned about Lee through the loss of Lee was gone. And then I realised, because it was about the year before, that I started to not have experiences where every time I'd hear an ambulance, my heart would stop and I would feel sick and relive my son's death. And I'd noticed a year before that accident that I heard an ambulance pass by and I went, oh, I didn't have any triggers. Now, at the time, people didn't talk about PTSD. No one knew of it. But I knew that there was a trigger with the ambulance and the siren, and that was gone. So I had like a freedom for a year, and then this accident. And I remember writing a children's book at the time, and it was all about helping children to understand the world through animals and nature. And I was asked to share this story at my son's school, and I was writing this children's book. But I remember thinking, it was really interesting, I remember thinking, I really want something deeper to dig into. So hence, here I was delivered.
Something deeper.
Right. And I'm not going to say I attracted it. I think sometimes, you know, we think that we attract things, but sometimes we're called to do something in a collective as individuals and part of a universal growth and healing for our time. And so I've discovered that about my experience. A lot of it isn't necessarily what I was thinking, what I believe, but what I was meant to do. And I've been shown that over and over again, which is really another topic. But I started to, because my memory was so deeply affected, I really had to learn how to function without using my mind. I really had to start really working with the heart that I was given, in the sense that the way in which I saw the world and felt the world. And then this was starting to be the beginning of me evolving and healing from the loss of Lee, because for a long time I had that experience suppressed because I had to be strong, you know, and survive, because I had a new baby when Lee died. He was only 6 weeks old. And so there was a lot of other things going on, and I had to be strong, and I never really had the opportunity to grieve. And I think this is a really interesting and very important topic. Most people don't understand how to grieve, and it's very difficult to grieve when you've got responsibilities. So people are inclined to suppress their grief and their loss, and they get on with what they think is their life.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need to dedicate time to retreat, to grieve. And hopefully your family will understand. And if they don't, then it's a matter of helping them to understand this, which is part of our evolution, you know, as a human race, to grow and heal as a human race. You know, what we think is important, making money, going to work, getting our nails and hair done, buying that new car, is really not what life is about. It's a facade, and it's something we all get lost in.
We can't we? We're just going to take a quick break, Deb, and we're going to be right back. I want to thank our viewers for keeping the chat box lighting up. And I really appreciate you being here. So we're just going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Welcome to Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop, serving Newmarket, Ontario and area for over 18 years. Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop is here to make your flower sending experience a pleasure. Please visit us online at www.flowersandthingsflowerandgiftshop.com or call us at 905-830-0024. Flowers and Things Flower and Gift Shop. We thrive on your satisfaction. We're back with Deborah Berry. So you said just before we went on the break something really, really important, that a lot of times based on a situation that we live in, we don't have, it's like we don't have the luxury to grieve properly. And that's what happened to you. You didn't have the luxury to grieve for your Lee, because you had to be the strong mom to another baby, and you had to be the strong wife and daughter and woman. And you're right. We want to put up this mask that says I'm fine, that I've got this, and eventually we got to face the truth. And I can so relate to this, because that's how I had my awakening. Is for a long time I wore this mask of I'm fine, I've got this, look at me, I'm happy, I'm smiling. And one day it was as loud as it could ever be, and that was the moment when I realized that no, it's time to face the truth. And it was the most liberating experience, but at the same time so painful, because you have to face the ugly truth and you have to start shedding these layers, which is so painful. So you make this accident that you've had mean to you something. What is it?
I think what happened, I'm not sure if I understand that question fully, Dela.
So I can perhaps say it more clear. So you said this accident happened, and a lot of people would be like, not me again. Oh. Not me again. Like, how you know, what have I ever done to deserve this? What did you make it mean?
That's really interesting, because I did do the why me, and I kept asking why me, and then I started to look. What was interesting is I started to look, because at the time when Lee died and I wasn't able to grieve the way I remember, actually I went into anger. I would have outbursts, and I said to my husband, you know, what I would like to do is I would be angry, because anger is suppressed pain and suffering, right? And I said, just let me, and at the time I was really, really sick, because I had a chemical poisoning that came from the birth of my son, from the epidural injections. And so I had a lot of other things that were going on, and I seemed like I was somewhat psychotic. And I said to my husband, I just want to go to a health farm and grieve. I wanted to fall in a heap and just cry myself until I just wanted to cry and cry and cry. And I wanted to just cry and cry and cry. And so, cut a long story short, I nearly ended up in a nut house, because this is what happens when you show grief and loss. People look at deep grief as, depression and now a depressive condition, and it's not. And I had to pretend again to get out of the marriage that I was okay, because I didn't want to get locked up and locked away and they throw the key away. And, I was pretty normal, really. So after I had the car accident, I went through it in a different way altogether again. And, I'm going, why me, why me? But then I start to look at, but why my mother? Why the people around me are treating me this way? I know me. I know who I am. I know I don't understand that. And then I was shown in all the searching to find my memory and myself and work through the pain and the suffering, and watching my marriage, my second marriage crumble before me. My son goes to live with his father. That I'm shown that everybody has suffering. My parents had suffering, and I was shown their story. And my heart opened in compassion. I started to see their suffering and recognize why they did what they did. They know not what they do in their own suffering, in their own pain. And so at that time I was seeing a psychologist who was a professor at university. And I remember rocking myself to sleep one day, and I said, God, dear God, I just was ready. I was having a mental breakdown. This was about a year after the car accident, and my mind I'd lost my mind. Like, I lost my ability to think in my own mind in that brain injury. And I just said, God, I have nothing to live for. There is no value in my life. Everything that I learnt from the loss of my baby is gone. I remember the pain was so horrendous, and I was not lost. I have no value or purpose at all. And I fell asleep. And within minutes, I fell asleep on the floor between my bed and the window, and it was like a mid-afternoon. And I felt the warmth of the sun come through the window. And God said, write a book. And I said, write a book? How am I going to write a book? I can't even remember how to spell my name. Are you serious? I mean, I literally said it like that. But all of the misery that I was feeling was gone. It vanished. I mean, it literally vanished, gone. So anyway, 2 weeks later, I went to my psychologist and we were talking, and he said, would you write a book with me?
Just like that.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything. No. You didn't say, I'm thinking of writing a book. Nothing. He said, would you write a book with me?
I was called at that time. But I was listening. I was paying attention. Because there was nobody to reach out to. I mean, I remember at the time my husband, he'd probably deny it, but he said to me, the way you carry on, you thought you'd have cancer. I didn't know I had a brain injury. I just had PTSD and vision problems and pain and neurological issue. I had a big long list of all the brain injury stuff, but I seemed normal, but eccentrically messed up. And because I've always been able to function, I even appear that I can function when I can't. And when I am a mess, I hide, I hibernate, and that's what I did. And so hence the book. From the children's concept to the adult concept, the Key to Life discovery process was created 10 years later.
Would you say you found your purpose?
look, it just found me. it just laid the path. My life laid out the path for what I was called to do and why I was put on this earth. It is what I do 24/7.
And losing Lee just was the first step in preparing you, and everything you went through and your accident. These were all steps in getting you prepared.
Exactly. And I think what's really interesting too is, there were things that I'd forgotten because I had traumas as a child that were pretty horrendous in themselves. And I've had a series of dreams my whole life that come true. And that's what the Aria is about. It's my spiritual journey done in a narrative, sharing my spiritual adventures and dreams and out-of-body experiences. And then the documentary I'm doing, Brave to the Core, is the practical journeys of other people's stories, how they evolved through their trauma and suffering, and through being creative and through using the arts, anything from art and music to help heal their lives. And so I have all these projects that I've been in between my survival in the last 5 years. I've been preparing all of that for now.
I just want to mention that I got a sneak peek at Deb's awesome podcast, Deborah's Aria, and it was beautiful. It was very it's very attractive. It's very engaging, and you're just so you're so easy to listen to, and really well made. So congratulations on that, and I know you're going to help so many people through that. How do you help people today through what you do? Like, give me a process. Like, who would benefit from reaching out to you?
The Key to Life discovery process is actually the process, not actually the book. So my first book that I did was The Key to Life, and Empower Your Life Secrets from a Life Coach. And then I've been working on the second edition, which is called Ridiculously Resilient, 12 Keys to Overcome Any Challenge, Trauma or Loss. And so in the meantime, because in 2015, I had a surgery which went terribly wrong. I've been still on the treadmill of evolving in not just writing a book from the past, but actually doing a second edition through the actual process of working through deeper aspects of the traumas and the loss of Lee. So answering your question, it might seem very complicated, but I've done it deliberately. I have a book, so you have a process to work through a book. I have a podcast, and the podcast is like a story and narrative that you listen to, like it's a little bit like movie therapy, right? And then I have a program called the Visual Vortex, which is like visual meditation, and it's part of the journey to help open you up to the light. And so what I'm doing is bringing all that together. And at the moment, you can go to deborah'saria.tv, and I have a couple of programs on there at the moment. They're free when you sign up. And they're going to evolve into individual online classes. And so I'm working on that. It's quite a process because I do tackle everything from all directions. And when I say everything, they say in marketing you can't be all things, but it's all collective, understanding that we get lost in loss and understanding the different losses of getting lost in loss. But I don't sit there and tell you what to do, what to think, how you should change your thinking. I help you through self-investigation to look at yourself and through your own questioning, your own challenges and your own questioning. So it's nearly fine-tuned to your personal journey. And the intention was that I'm not here, I'm not your teacher, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm guiding you through your own inner journey from the dark into the light.
You're merely showing us the different flavors and the spices and showing us how to put them all together.
And I share my stories and my poetry to inspire that this is how I did it. But you will find your journey. You will find your way. Like you say, and we all know we all have an individual story and they all interconnect in some way, and we meet the right people at the right time. Sometimes we meet the people that we think are the wrong people at the wrong time. But in fact, you know, everything happens for a reason. There is no accidents. Nothing happens by accident. And that will be, I say, nothing is by chance. And there's a whole sequence of events that have happened on the 11th anniversary, the 22nd anniversary, and the 33rd ascension that I talk about in the superhuman connection, which is all in the Aria, the podcast, which I'm excited about.
That's amazing. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen, step by step. It's like pieces of a puzzle coming together, but in the exact order they're supposed to show up in your life. I so totally resonate with that. And so it begs the question of, then do I blame this person for doing this and this person for saying this and this accident to happen here and this illness to happen here? Then really there's no blaming anyone or anything. And it takes a lot to embrace every single thing that happens to us. But it's so hard when you're in that moment and it happens to you. It's easy to talk about it and say, just embrace it. Are you kidding? How do I embrace cancer? How do I embrace loss of a child? How do I embrace a devastating whatever? I mean, there's so many. How do we do that then?
You know what's really interesting? We think about the word embrace. Now that word means to hold, like to hold to me. Because when you're suffering, when you're hurting, well, even a baby that's crying, you want to be embraced, right? But when you're really suffering and when you're really ugly in your suffering, and when people are frightened of that suffering, no one wants to embrace you. So who embraces you? You learn to embrace yourself. And how do we do that? Look, I've suffered not that long ago after a surgery, and we go through this battle in ourselves because we resist it, and the more you resist it, the more it gets a hold of you. So it's like letting go and learning how to let go. And it's not just learning how to say it in your mind, but to teach your body how to let go. You can teach your body and your brain to do many things, but you need to spend the time to do it. And ironically, it's when our suffering, when everything is taken from us and that's all you've got to focus on, that you actually do the work. Now, initially you may not because you're caught in that suffering. But, you know, it's what you do when you wake up in the morning or before you go to sleep at night. And if I see anything that is dark, you know, I don't close my eyes anymore. I don't need to, but you close your eyes and you focus on the light, and you focus on the light. And before you know it, the light will seek you. And that energy and that light energy that seeks you is what turns on the power within you. And then it becomes nearly addictive. And it is really simple, but it's like, how do you, and people are frightened to look at the dark. They're frightened to look at their pain and suffering because they don't know how to get out of it. And that's what I really feel I've been called to do, is I help people to find their way through that dark. because I've done it not once, I've done it many times.
When you say that a lot of people are afraid to look in the dark, I know that sometimes, what's happened to us in the past, our traumas are so devastating to us and they bring back a lot of those, the sadness and the pain and the suffering that we just, like, sometimes our mind goes there and then we feel that pain again because we relive through that experience, and then we just want to like wipe it away, and we just want to sweep it to the side, under the rug. Okay, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to feel that anymore. And so is there a way that can be healed by doing that over and over again?
It's back to the analogy of the recipe and the cooking. It's not one thing. I didn't do anything by one thing. I did many, many, many things. That's why this humongous book, there's 100,000 words, and it's, there are different techniques that you can start with. It's like trusting that, everybody can learn to be an artist. Everybody can learn to be a chef. It's just a matter of applying it and making the time to do it. And it's a discipline to become a practice. It's a ritual. So we exchange our unhealthy habits. I don't want to sound like a life coach, but, exchange the unhealthy habits for rituals that are healthy for us. And it's changing our belief system about what we think works and what doesn't. And, unfortunately, the very things that help us or appear to help us initially can be the very things that hold us prisoner to it. So, and I'm holistic, so medicine is wonderful. It does some amazing things, but you start taking a lot of antidepressants and you keep owning that I'm depressed, and you keep blaming your depression, you'll stay depressed. So it's understanding your body and what it's doing and what it's going through, and making a decision that I'm going to find, if there's a will, there's a way, and be ready to say, I'm going to, look, I could be still sitting in a chair in Las Vegas, crippled in a chair, hanging on to breath, choking on metal, leaning on my throat. And I sold my sanctuary to pay for a surgery. And, that's another story I call Mission Butterfly. But I decided that's not what I was going to do, because I was called to do what I was called to do. And Lee did not die in vain. He came to deliver his message so I could deliver mine, as you are delivering your message, Dela, and I'm delivering mine, to inspire and not just change our individual lives, but help to support others to change theirs, so our environment in which we live in, our communities and our cities, they change too. That we are not suppressing the truth of our suffering, but evolving in the truth, in the light of that truth, and in the suffering. So if you're an artist or a writer or a singer, or you've got a little meditation you think's really not doing me any good, don't underestimate those tiny things. Just keep adding them to your repertoire every day. And like I've said, and I've said this, it's like, don't just like look for the light and expect the light, but see the light. And close your eyes, and within whatever your meditation or prayer is, see the light. And it sounds really simple, but there is something about that light. It will come to me. It did with me. I saw a pinprick of light, and it started with a little pinprick, and I saw this light, and I go, oh, and it was like the connection of my mind to my soul, and to the greatest universe or God, or And so if you love gardening, or it doesn't matter what it is, just add beauty in your life every day and expand on it and start looking at what matters. And even more so, what matters in you. You matter, And interesting thing about the dark and suffering is the more that you suffer in that pain and the more that it gets a hold of you, the more you feel you don't matter, because you become smaller and smaller. But when you open up into the light and the light meets you, you expand infinitely. It's an incredible feeling, and it's beyond words.
As you're talking, I'm imagining this cocoon and then just like opening up. That's the feeling I get when you talk about that. It's like a transformation. Wow. I could sit here and listen to you forever, because you just have such a way about you, Deb. I see a woman who has transformed her life, and all she sees now is beauty and light around her, and in every single person she meets. That's a beautiful thing, to be able to see other people and have the compassion to see their suffering and really understand why they did what they did and said what they said. That to me is light, to be able to live in that place where you live now. Go ahead.
Let me say this. I want to say this. This is very real. People can be ugly in their pain. And there are times that their ugliness gets and triggers my ugliness, because we live in a balance of extremes of dark and light. The light exists and expands from the dark. It's more powerful. But there are times when I am not at my best, that I'm dealing with somebody and I'm not dealing with their ugly very well. And I have to remind myself that they too are suffering. I am far from a perfect light being by any means, Dela. But what I have learned is that each time that I see or experience an ugly experience and I feel like I'm a victim of somebody's garbage, I take the time to work on feeling the beauty of life. And I remind myself through the work that I do, and art and nature and creativity and creation in itself.
Hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're human.
Yeah, it's a good thing to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. I'm just going to give you a couple of more minutes, Deb, because we're almost ending our program today. So finish us off with whatever you'd like.
I have a poem.
Yes.
I love to end with a poem.
Yes.
This poem I wrote in memory of the people. It was after the tragedy of the shooting in Las Vegas, and it was for a book for the library it was about freedom, and it's called Today's Revelation. My mind she soared outside my heart, determined not to shame. Today's revelation was real enough to hold no one to blame. My heart she cried to see the deaths, the ravage acts that stole, ending life and changing lives, never to be the same. Such memories have a vicious cycle, a verdict doomed to chains. Liberty stands and holds us close, united we must remain. The fury hit, but freedom roared, the light it filled the dark. Compassion captured the judgment call to free the violence stored. Kindness is our forever friend, choices not by chance. Decisions made to overcome fear and endless tragedy, one by one solidarity, determined rationality. My heart she smiles, my mind is free. Tomorrow's inspiration is up to me. restored and hopeful attitude to live in peace and gratitude, manifesting love. In our modern world, seeking happiness, conflicts and tragedy test our ability to maintain a balance, equality between right and wrong, being victimized and the ultimate experience of freedom. Each of us has an internal barometer uniquely designed as a quest for investigation. No matter what challenges or misfortunes cross your path, an opportunity is presented to seek out today's revelation through reflection, accountability, and self-kindness. Self-kindness leads to gratitude, the appreciation of one's goodness, which will touch those you come in contact with. So if you feel there is little you can do to help change the world, think again. For every little ounce of goodness being gestured, the freedom to love is manifesting.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm just not going to say anything. We want to end with that.
Thank you for having me.
It was very, very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deb, for being here and giving us your time and shining your light on the world. The world is a better place because you're in it.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. And for everyone else who's joined us today, I want to thank you for giving us your time. Take from this what you need and leave the rest. And share this message if you found it helpful. As always, this has been another episode of Dela's Voice, hoping to spark your soul. Until next time, stay blessed.
Bye.
Bye-bye.